Welcome to the beginning of another class. If you're taking a New Testament survey or the Life of Christ Part 1, then this will be your very first course because it's covering the same material. So, are you ready to get started? Let's go. What happened during the Old and New Testaments? You know those pages between the covenants, right? Sort of to the right of the middle of your Bible? Well, at this particular time, Aramaic was the language that was spoken at the time the New Testament took place. And that time period between the Testaments measured about 400 years. Now, during this time, Ezra and Nehemiah, they had rebuilt the temple. And you know that happened back in the books Ezra and Nehemiah. Those Old Testament books are not in chronological order. So Malachi was not on a timeline where the Old Testament ended. Are you confused? Well, we'll talk about that in Old Testament survey. As the New Testament opens, the Persian Empire is in control. Alexander the Great then comes along, and in a very short span of time, can I just give you a little history lesson? Alexander the Great comes in and he conquers the Persian Empire, and he Hellenized much of the then known world. That simply means that he brought in tremendous Greek influence. However, he died at the age of 33 with no heirs. And so 4 generals immediately started to vie for control. And one of them, Epiphanes, he won. He wanted to crush the Jewish culture. He plundered the temple and he sacrificed a pig on the temple altar in honor to Zeus. Now, a godly family of priests, the Maccabees, they revolted against Epiphanes and the atrocities that he was performing and leading the nation. And so they led in a war for their independence, and they won. So there were 100 years after that. They were 100 years of freedom, and we call that the Maccabean period. Now that leads us to 63 BC. General Pompey, he conquered Jerusalem for Rome. He overtook the temple. He killed all the priests. He invaded the most holy place. You know, the Holy of Holies, where the presence of God was manifested. And he earned the Jews' hatred. From that point forward, the Jews longed for, they prayed for the Messiah to come. A Messiah who would come and overthrow the Roman government and would rescue them. Now, here's a note for us. At this point, if we were set down in the middle of the story, it looks like everything is messed up. There's no hope. But God had his hand in history. And right now, if there are things going on in your life that they look like it's just messed up, that God has abandoned you, can I tell you, he has not. He's got a bigger picture, a bigger story. Let's talk about that. It was a divine setup. God has perfect timing. And in this timing of Rome coming in and establishing an empire, several things happened that were key in what Jesus would do and bring to the earth. First of all, it became the Pax Romana, or Roman peace. Wars stopped between the nations. Secondly, the Greek language became the accepted language of all nations. Everyone in every nation could comprehend the Greek language. This was so important because when the gospel began to spread, the gospel was available to everyone. It was during this time then that the Old Testament scriptures, which were written in Hebrew, were translated into Greek, and that writing was called the Septuagint. for the first time ever in history, everyone could understand who Jehovah God was. It was a setup for Jesus to arrive. And one thing that it was really interesting is that Rome created a system of roads, because everyone had to pay homage to Rome and had to travel there. They built elaborate systems of transportation. And so when we see the gospel going forth, there was already a pavement ready to receive that travel. Now, as you do your studies, you will see some terms, and I just would like to give a brief definition before this video concludes. First of all, you'll read much about Pharisees. These were literally interpreted separated ones, and they were Jewish teachers, leaders, who strongly championed the scriptures, but they became bogged down and overly concerned with details. You'll also read about Sadducees. Now, there were not as many of these as Pharisees, but Sadducees had more political power. They ruled in the Sanhedrin, which was the Jewish court. Scribes, well, these were experts in the study of the law, and we could compare them to lawyers. The temple. This is key. The temple, there was only one, and it was located in Jerusalem. This was the only place that sacrifices could be made. Sacrifices that were vital to cover, to atone for the sins of people. But every community had a synagogue, and a synagogue was a place of learning. Throughout the week, it acted as a school, and then on the Sabbath, the people came together to read the scriptures, to sing the hymns, and to worship. So you will see that Jesus went to the synagogues, and he preached and he taught, but at the time of special feasts, he would go to the temple. Now, that's all I want to give you for today. So check your course syllabus, look at the schedule, and follow along with the watching videos, the reading in the textbook, and the answering of questions. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.